Pregame.com.
I'm Vegas Runner, joined with Scott Spreitzer. Going to break up rivalry of New York City Giants at the New York Jets. Line open 3-47. Line still 3, but the VIG's plus $1.05. That means it's dropping down to 2.5 at some of the shops. Totals also come down to 45.5. I know Scott likes this game. What play? What's the play? What am I betting come Sunday?
I'm looking at a total for this particular show, right, Saturday. Here's the thing. I'm watching one of the not Sports Center, but one of the shows a few weeks ago, and one of the former players, a former player on the show, won't say any names, but give me the damn ball, so you know who I'm referring to now, said that the New York Giants, boy, I know, he goes, they're about ready to make one of those late season runs that they're known to make under Coughlin. And I'm like, this team doesn't make late season runs. It's the exact, unless I missed something, it's been the exact opposite. So, you got to factor that into the equation when you're talking about the New York Giants, and also the position they're in, though, might be different than this year than in some of those years past. But at least as they've kind of sloughed off a bit down the stretch, they have a little bit of an excuse where the Jets don't, because the Giants are playing against a very tough slate over the past few weeks.
Agreed.
Where the New York Jets have been playing a relatively soft schedule and struggling at the same time. So, VR, when I'm looking at this game, I'm trying to break down which team has the better opportunity to bounce back. And I look at Mark Sanchez since before the season when they made a couple of acquisitions and lost a couple of players. And I thought back then, and to reference another ESPN show, I think it's Monday Night Countdown, that "Come On Man" segment. I'm sorry, he's taking a lot of blame, Mark Sanchez, but come on, man, look what they left this guy with as far as people to throw to. I mean, Plaxico Burress and Santonio Holmes are your best receivers. Dustin Keller is the best receiver overall, but your best wideouts include Plaxico Burress at this point of his career. I just don't blame this guy for having the kind of season he has. He's not playing terribly at all, but he's not stepping out and making huge plays.
Right.
There's nobody around him.
I agree with you. The Giants, here's a team that controlled, as bad as they were playing down the stretch, and the numbers support exactly what you said. New York Giants, according to Jeff Sagarin, have the 6th toughest schedule in all of the NFL. Jets are 13th, so there's a big difference there. But the Giants, they're 1-5 over their last 6 games straight up, and yet they were on top of the NFC East and in control of their own destiny, had a home game that they were favored in against Washington and couldn't get it done. That to me was surprising. I had Washington last week, but I thought the Giants would at least get the W. Looking at the Jets side, another team that is more or less in a must-win situation. So, I mean, this is one of those games that I think is going to be, besides the rivalry, I think the pressure is going to make it a playoff atmosphere type game. What do you think?
Oh, I think so also. And I was with you on the Skins last week, and I was in the same mindset where I thought that the Giants would probably find a way to pull the game out by a field goal. But the Redskins, well, give them credit too. They've been playing great football. Part of it since Roy Halu Jr. came into the mix in the backfield, and they've been blocking so well. But, the Giants are a banged-up football team, and that's one of their main problems. And the one win you mentioned they've had recently was a very fortunate win against the Dallas Cowboys on that Sunday night a couple of weeks ago. They probably
down 12, 4 minutes left.
Exactly. And I'm going to say they should have lost because I had the Cowboys.
I had the Cowboys that night as well. And we were both sitting in the driver's seat, at the end of the game, which is the most you could ever ask for. To me, I think the books are going to get Giants money, believe it or not. I know the Jets are maybe more the public team, especially with all the hype surrounding Ryan coming into the season, how they're going to win the Super Bowl. But most guys I spoke to thought this is a coin toss type game.
Sure.
If they met each other 100 times, they'd split. But the look-ahead line at the Hilton was 4.
Right.
They had the Jets at -4.
Because of home field advantage.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
Yeah, someone didn't factor in that these two aren't traveling very far. Jets 6-1 at home. Maybe that's the reason. But the line's dropping. It's probably going to go off at 2.5 now that they're willing to come off that key number. They're thrown in the VIG, which is plus 105 at -3, which is more or less the same thing. So I was a little surprised when they sent it out at 3, but then how quickly they were willing to come off it.
Sure.
So it looks to me as if they got some sharp money on the dog, and they expect the public money to come in on the dog as well. I think the books are going to end up with one-sided money. I think where the early money is going to help them balance a little, I think the public's going to go over in this game. When you look at the New York Jets, 5 of their last 6 games have gone over the total. They're scoring points. They're giving up points. Same with the Giants. Most people just recently remember them lighting up the scoreboard against Philadelphia. And yet, this line came out 47, saw some money go under, which isn't rare when you have a East Coast game in December and, playoff atmosphere type with this high of a total. You think that line's high enough, that total, or they were right when they opened it at 47?
I lean towards the over. I lean towards where the books had it, being a little bit of a higher scoring game. And of course, you got to check the weather, by the way. You got to make sure that the weather's not crazy in this particular football game. But the bottom line is you've got a Giants defense that plays aggressive football, but yet are in the bottom 3 or 4 in the NFL in most key defensive categories, and they are banged up. And if they don't get to Sanchez, then he can finally find some of these guys. And I think Dustin Keller has a chance to have a huge game in his matchups in this contest. Now, at the same time, you've got a Giants offense that, as you mentioned, they've been putting up a lot of points, 3rd in the league through the air. They don't run the ball well, so I don't think you can, I think they can try it early on, but I don't think they can stick to it throughout the football game to run the football. They're averaging just over 3 yards per carry on the season, but they're one of the best passing the football. They're averaging about 300 yards per game through the air. And when you look at this team, they're averaging, Eli is at least, 8.2 passing yards per attempt. Pretty nice stat. And I'm not a big angles guy. Those who know me, I'm a matchup guy more than...
No, but other than turnovers, passing yards per attempt is the highest correlation to winning football games.
Yeah, turnovers number 1 by far.
Exactly. And statisticians have proven it's not rushing, it's passing yards per attempt does have the highest correlation.
I happen to think that running back injuries in the NFL are the most overrated thing you hear talked about on radio and such. I want to know what the quarterback and his receivers are doing. And the fact is, and I copied this down, is that the Jets, they're on a 7-0 run against teams that average over 7 yards per attempt passing. And as I mentioned, Eli's averaging 8.2. So they have a problem with guys and, quarterbacks and receivers who hook up well and have a good chemistry and who do average a decent amount of yardage per attempt. So you've got that going for you if you like the over. And then the Giants have really struggled down the stretch in several seasons. They're 11-2 to the over when playing against a team with a winning record in the second half of the season over the past 3 years. So one of their problems down the stretch under Tom Coughlin over the last few years has been their attrition on defense. It's really worn this team down, and they give up a lot of points. And in this particular spot that they're in this game, they're giving up 35 points per game on average the last 13 times. So it's something that has to be factored in. I saw the 47. I'm thinking, wow, a lot of times when you look at teams and you think the game's going to go over and then, under, and then you see those high totals, it makes you think twice. Because the books obviously know what they're doing. So, yeah, I do tend to agree with the books. I think it's going to be a higher scoring game than most people think.
Yeah, and I like what you said when you brought in up the turnovers. Turnovers turning the points. I mean, that's the bottom line. And you look at the New York Giants, they're -4 in turnovers over the last 4 games. You got the New York Jets -4 in turnovers over their last 6. Turnovers turn in the points. If these two turn the ball over, that bodes well for your over.
What you need is for them not to have drives from their own 20 down to the other
and then turn
20.
it over.
What you need is to have them turn it over on their own side of the field, as you know.
I agree.
And that's what could happen in this game.
The one question I have is you brought up the running game. The Giants won 2 of their last 3 games when they rushed for over 100 yards. We know this year they've had trouble rushing, which wasn't expected coming into the season with their great 1-2 punch, but they only average 86 yards per game. New York Jets, they've won their last 3 games when they rushed for over 100 yards. Didn't do so last week against Philly, got blown out, but they fell behind early, so they had to come out throwing the ball. So I give them a pass there. Because these teams have had success winning football games when they've been able to run the football, do you think they'll come out and try that? Or if they don't have success, will they just abandon it and trust their quarterbacks? Because I'd want the ball in Eli Manning's hands.
Well, I think, like I was kind of saying at the top of the video here, is that I think they're going to try to run the football. I think what you're saying is exactly right. They know the statistics as well as we do, better than we do, so to speak. Maybe they don't, by the way.
Sure.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So they know in order to win football games, they got to try to run the football. But I think both are in such a must-win situation.
They're willing to abandon it and go for bust.
Exactly. And if you fall down 10 points in this game, you cannot let it get any further away from you. And you've got to throw the football.
I agree. And this time of the season when so much matters, when it comes down to one single game, is going to make or break your season. I think you got to be willing to abandon your game plan and abandon that whatever that common thing you do, like you say, we're going to go in there, we're going to run the ball, even if we don't have success, we're still going to stick to the game plan. I think that all goes out the window in a one and done type atmosphere. And I think that's what you have here.
Yeah, I think they absolutely have to. I think both teams will try to run the football. If one team has success and jumps out by 10 points, I'll be celebrating because it's
going to open it up. Open it up.
Exactly. So that's, and again, what I have to really be on top of, and when we talk about this game, as far as the over is concerned, is make sure the weather is on your side in this East Coast December affair. So.
And the thing is this, sometimes, because remember, the very best in the business will cash 600 out of every 1,000 tickets at the most. Realistically, it's closer to 550, 570. Exactly. With that said, you can't be afraid to go against some of these line moves. That's what I tell people, especially when you don't know for sure. Unless you're sitting there next to the man who runs the individual betting syndicate that made that move. You don't know what the reasoning is all the time behind a move. If anything, sometimes going against what you perceive to be sharp money, all it does is give you a better number. You would much rather go over 45 and a half than have to go over 47.
If I find a dog early in the week that's plus 4.5, and for some reason I didn't get down on it, and all of a sudden, this doesn't happen much, but all of a sudden it's 3 or 2.5, I'm not going to bet that dog in all likelihood.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you're going to cost yourself a lot of money 55% of the time.
But if it goes to 6, that doesn't mean you should automatically be be more afraid and say, there's a sharp move on the favorite. Now I don't, if anything, maybe you should like your dog more. Now you're getting 6 points. And I'm just saying, caution this early line move because it is so early in the week.
And you got guys out there who are going to, big money or syndicates or whatever, that are going to bet such and such team at, let's say the line's 2.5 and they want the underdog. They're going to drive that number up
and get the number they want.
Way for twice as much money as
because books have such little confidence in their early numbers that it takes very little money to move a price.
Yeah, exactly.
So you could pretty much help manipulate the market if you get respect early. That's all I'm driving at. Giants, Jets, big game for both these teams. Scotty likes the over. I got to agree with him. He made some really good points. It's going to do it for this week's video. Best of luck on the games. Enjoy the holidays.